Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. It is my pleasure to talk to you today about our mixed program, which is The Four Temperaments, Rubies, and Cacti. The Four Temperaments is a ballet by George Balanchine to music of Paul Hindemith. The music was actually commissioned by Balanchine in 1940 and finally saw its premiere in 1946 with Ballet Society, which was the company that immediately preceded the New York City Ballet. The Four Temperaments refers to the four medieval personality types: melancholic, sanguinic, phlegmatic, and choleric. But Balanchine said these are just a point of departure. This was a way to structure the music, but not a theatrical, dramatic idea. The music, in fact, is a theme and variations, and Balanchine pays a lot more attention to the theme and variation structure than to the idea of there being four distinct personality types. The opening theme is a saraband, the second theme somewhat of a polka, and the third theme a waltz. And throughout the ballet, of course, these themes come back, and each are treated differently by different ensembles. So what we see is some very structured analysis. How does a movement look if done with the working side toward the audience? How if done with the supporting side to the audience? How if done on a lower level, on a higher level, faster, slower, so that we, in the same way that we examine the themes by listening to them in different meters, in different orchestrations, we examine human movement in the same way. And then in the final movement, there is synthesis. And after choleric's variation, the entire company comes on stage, and suddenly we have this massed unity. And against that, almost the Rockettes kick line, we have soaring couples who break free from unison and express, I think, perhaps mankind's aspirations to go further, to be more. As Balanchine used to say, it can always be better. Rubies is also Balanchine, and this time to music of Igor Stravinsky. Balanchine was fond of saying, I don't need stories. If I put a man and a woman on stage, it's already story enough. There is a single woman who is adored by four men and backed by 8 core women. And then there is a couple who dance the central pas de deux. Solo woman is often called the pin-up girl, and she certainly attracts a lot of interest from these 4 single men. In the pas de deux, we see pretty much a standard Balanchinian relationship in that the man is there to serve the woman, the man is there to make the woman look good, but she doesn't look good in traditional point shoe tiara sort of way. She's jazzy, she's distorted. In the same way that the music plays tricks on us, it gives us notes, it gives us rhythms, it gives us orchestrations that we don't expect. Balanchine does the same thing with the principal woman's body language. And as the orchestra distorts traditional intervals and rhythms further and further, indeed the same thing happens to the principal woman. And at a certain point, we actually feel that the orchestra and the piano and the principal woman and her partner are actually in some kind of tension. There's a little bit of fight going on. And then suddenly, Stravinsky, in his genius way, lets all that disappear in a little puff of musical smoke. We see the man and the woman, their hands intertwine, and suddenly, in a very beautiful and unique way, they are linked. And we see, that's Balanchine for you. It doesn't really matter how much fuss and how much tension there is. In the end, we are all connected. We all hear this music in the same way, and we imagine the same things. Cacti is a very different sort of ballet. Cacti is definitely about ideas, but not quite in the way you might think. I read a very interesting interview with Alex Eichmann, where he said that there's a lot of contemporary dance out there which he finds boring. And I thought, oh, do I feel better now? I'm not the only one that goes sometimes to a dance performance and doesn't get it. And I think this ballet, Cacti, is actually about that. As the ballet opens, we hear a very, very turgid philosophical discussion of how ballet should learn to collaborate so that native cultures and technology can coexist. And what we see, in fact, the guy is trying to reinvent the wheel. And Eichmann shows us, yes, but musicians and dancers and scenic artists have always collaborated. And then he shows us this fantastic movement sequence which requires extraordinary collaboration. And we think, wow, those people are so capable, that is so interesting. And we don't think for a minute, what is it about? And then another voiceover comes and starts telling us what it was about. And you start to realize, oh, this is a parody. This is about what people force you to think you ought to do when you go to the ballet. You ought to be explaining it to yourself. You ought to be thinking about it. And I think Eichmann is showing us, he's not telling us, he's very good about that. He's showing us, no, it's what you experience. Ballet is not a thought exercise, it is a sensation. Finally, at the end of the ballet, the voiceover talks about, I think this should be the end. I think the end should come now. And again, you're given that moment of relief when you think, oh, I'm not the only one who sits there in the theater and thinks, isn't this the end? Am I supposed to clap now? And it's funny. And it reminded me that we often say to people, laughter is the best medicine. But the best medicine against what? Well, in this case, against self-doubt, against fear of saying the wrong thing, thinking the wrong thing. So I think you leave the theater after Cacti and you are confident and you are free from fear and you are ready to enjoy that luxury that every human being has to make up his own mind and to exercise his own choice. I hope you enjoy these ballets. Thank you very much.